cut east to west travel time in half, saving ships over 8,000 miles per trip. But no one's had the power to make it happen. Until now. JP Morgan acts as the middleman for the government and raises $40 million, or $7 billion today, to get the project started. The Panama Canal is the most ambitious construction project the United States has ever undertaken. Over 75,000 workers labor in brutal heat, fighting off deadly diseases, digging a canal 51 miles from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
To assemble the manpower, the material, and the finances to cut a swath through the middle of Panama and join the Atlantic Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. Only an industrially sophisticated nation could do that.
The Panama Canal embodies everything that makes America the most powerful country on the planet. Built on steel, powered by electricity, and running on gasoline. And it's all made possible due to the financial might of one of the country's most powerful men. But the age of monopoly is still on trial. And the unchallenged power the Titans have used to amass their empires is not going to last forever. Decades of unprecedented growth have transformed America into an industrial superpower. The change has been driven by some of the largest companies the world has ever seen. U.S. Steel, Standard Oil, and General Electric. But it also comes with a cost. Workers are outraged over dangerous conditions at factories across the country.
Nobody will break us! Nobody!
And the gap between the rich and the poor is bigger than it's ever been. Many are convinced that America's largest companies are holding the country back. The age of monopoly.
Chúng tôi không ngừng nâng cao chất lượng sản phẩm và dịch vụ để mang đến những trải nghiệm giải trí đỉnh cao. Ra mắt website
is under threat.
I hate monopolists. I fought monopolists all my life. I always wanted an even playing field, but I had to fight for an even playing field for myself.
Over a 40-year career, John Rockefeller used innovation and ingenuity to create a corporate empire unlike any the world has ever seen. But he was also notoriously ruthless, and many believe he went too far. For John D. Rockefeller, Judgment Day is here, in what's become the trial of the century, the people versus Standard Oil.
The picture painted of Standard Oil is a depressing one. No trust in the history of America has been so destructive in its pursuit of profit. Time and time again, we have heard how Standard Oil has used secret kickbacks from the railroads, been routinely engaged in predatory pricing, used intimidation and exclusive sales territories to put refineries out of business. For over 30 years, Standard Oil has been on a mission to crush its competition and establish itself as a monopoly to hoist up the price of kerosene. Mr. Rockefeller, Before the court renders its decision, do you have anything you wish to say?
When I came into the oil industry, there was chaos. I brought order. I took a second-rate, inefficient market and built an industry. It was done the way it was because that's the way it had to be done. No one complained when I brought light into every home. No one complained when I provided thousands of jobs or millions of dollars from exports. Oil is what this country runs on. You call it monopoly. I call it enterprise. Now, you tell me, why am I here?
As the court adjourns to deliberate, Rockefeller can only await his company's fate. Hundreds of miles away, a new kind of businessman, Henry Ford, also waits. A panel of federal judges will decide whether Ford can continue to freely manufacture and sell his Model A car. The Association of Licensed Automobile Manufacturers is suing Ford for a royalty on every car he sells. Ford knows those royalties would drive up the cost of his car, putting it out of reach for the average consumer. For most early car makers, the lawsuit would be a devastating setback. But for Ford, it's something different, an opportunity.
People react to failure in one of two ways. Either they get scared and give up, or they take that failure as a learning experience, and they kind of use that experience to redouble their efforts.
Ford is convinced the era of unchecked monopolies is over. So as his lawsuit winds its way through court, he openly defies the order from Allen and continues building and selling his cars. He believes there's a better way to conduct business in America, and he's determined to make it a reality.
Henry Ford was able to position himself as an anti-monopolist, really in a certain way as a kind of antithesis of the Rockefellers and the Carnegies. He is the kind of heroic individual entrepreneur who believed in competition, who believed in developing a product and bringing it to the people.
Ford begins paying his workers a livable wage, $5 per day, more than double the rate of most U.S. factories. But Ford isn't just paying his workers better, he's also getting more out of them. He innovates a new system for producing cars. Rather than handcrafting each car one at a time, his are assembled by a line of workers, piece by piece. It's called the assembly line, and it completely changes manufacturing forever.
Ford didn't invent mass production, but he perfected mass production. He understood that a complicated product like an automobile could be simplified and could be made less expensive if the same thing was produced again and again and again.
Using the assembly line, Ford workers can build cars up to 8 times faster than any other automobile factory in the world. What once took 12 hours to assemble now takes an hour and a half. The innovation allows Ford to standardize the 8-hour workday, 5 days per week. But for Ford to continue to innovate, he'll need to win his lawsuit. His fate, like John Rockefeller's, now rests in the hands of a federal court. Henry Ford and John D. Rockefeller are two American icons from different generations, on opposing sides of a battle for the country's future. As the verdicts come in, American business will never be the same. America is becoming the most powerful nation on Earth, transformed from a post-Civil War wasteland into a budding superpower. By a group of visionaries who battled the impossible to build unimaginable empires that have brought the country into the 20th century.
With all the great entrepreneurs, it was a mix of believing in an idea, but they also recognized that they had to do some things to take that idea and make it real.
After decades of doing whatever it took to crush the competition, John D. Rockefeller is fighting to save the company he built from nothing into one of the largest and most dominating corporations on the planet.
Big business is a dangerous thing in the eyes of many because of the power it wields.
The United States versus Standard Oil.
The biggest antitrust trial of all time is about to reach a verdict. 444 witnesses have taken the stand. 12,000 pages of testimony have been recorded. But in the end, it all comes down to the testimony of one man.
You call it monopoly. I call it enterprise.
John Rockefeller has done all he can to keep his monopoly intact. But the fate of Standard Oil is out of his control.
In the case of the United States against the Standard Oil Company, this hearing has reached a decision. This court determines against the Standard Oil Trust on account of its unreasonable business practices, which are in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. The Standard Oil Trust must be broken up within 6 months.
John Rockefeller's Standard Oil is completely dismantled, broken up into 34 smaller companies. The age of monopoly is over. The takedown of Standard Oil bodes well for the rising guard of a new generation of businessmen. Most of all, Henry Ford. Ford awaits the future of his company after the powerful auto cartel Alum charged him with breaching their patent on the automobile and tried to shut him down. It's a potentially life-changing moment, not just for Ford, but for the future of every industry in the country. In a surprise decision, the court rules in favor of Henry Ford. Alum has no legal claim to the design of the car. Henry Ford is free to innovate without repercussion.
Well, guys, that was it. Let's go sell some cars, huh?
Ford's dream is made a reality. The car belongs to everyone.
Ford's success put him forward in American life as a new kind of businessman. But in crucial ways,